This is your home for St. Cloud State hockey, keeping you up to date on the NCHC.
One-timer coming, they score! Ripped in! A bomb from Peart!
Women's WCHA.
So Dana Rasmussen fires and she scores! Dana Rasmussen for the Huskies alongside
The National Hockey League.
Dwayne Kaprizov in for a chance to win it! He scores! Kirill, the thrill is for real! Welcome to the NHL, a game winner!
And everything from the state of hockey.
St. Cloud Cathedral is now 42.6 seconds away from wrapping up the school's first ever title.
Welcome to the Huskies Warming House Podcast Den. And welcome into episode number 75, the Healthy Scratch interview segment here on the Huskies Warming House podcast, your number one home for, college hockey and St. Cloud hockey, which is right around the corner. And this is our first time on the show having a freshman skater who, Nick, you kind of mentioned it to me right before we started this show here. The first freshman skater we've had that has yet to play a game for the Huskies. So pretty excited to get this interview done. The comparisons have been made, at least I would say off the ice and off the ice, to a guy by the name of Jimmy Schultz. Would you say those comparisons were accurate after this interview?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the hockey IQ thing, and he'll touch on that too. But not the boisterous guy. He's definitely not the fun forward glue guy. He's not going to be a Paul Bissonnette, which is a good thing. Because at least for Jack, Peart. I keep having trouble with that.
Yeah.
Peart, but yes.
And that's a great thing to point out. We're going to mention his name a couple of times, but for those who are wondering, the pronunciation, as he told us before the show, the word ear is in his name. So it is Jack Peart for those trying to fill out those media guides for a guy who will surely, I would think, be penciled in the lineup for this season.
I think he is going to push for a spot, Noah. And I think it was McHatton too that, gave us that same insider. You don't bring in a guy at 18 years old who won Mr. Hockey to put him on the bench. I do think he's going to contend for possibly a top four spot. Again, I don't think you're going to, take out Seamus Donahue and that top pairing there for the Huskies with Nick Perbix. But, I think there's still plenty of room there in that bottom four, maybe to mix it up and see, who can earn that final four spots, honestly. And, it's a good problem to have for Huskies fans. You can never have too much depth, especially in your blue line, and Huskies will have plenty. And it's unfortunate that, in a normal season that, you probably only get 7 defensemen who really find themselves in the rotation. So plenty of talent there, and you got to hope to see what Jack can bring here this first freshman season.
Did Brett let you know where you were in the lineup?
I was the healthy scratch. That's what this is called. I'm not on the.
Well, speaking of this week's Healthy Scratch interview segment guest, it was Jack Peart for episode number 75.
Welcome back to the Den Husky Warming House podcast, fans. It's episode number 75 of the Healthy Scratch interview. And joining us, a very special guest who will be a freshman this year for the St. Cloud State men's hockey team. It's 2021 Mr. Hockey Award winner and incoming freshman defensive Jack Peart. Jack, how are you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing well, Jack. First of all, first week of classes, I know that's not obviously any topic of discussion nobody really likes to kind of get into, but kind of get in. I know you've been on campus a little bit now, but 3 days of classes, how's the adjustments? How's everything been so far?
It was a little nerve-wracking the first day, just trying to find my first class, but I got there on time, so no, it's been good.
Did anybody tell you that the swimming pool was on the 4th floor of the Washington Carver building?
No, I didn't hear that one, but I'm glad I didn't.
I always think it's interesting to put in perspective. Jack, obviously you're a highly touted addition to this Huskies lineup, but yet when you say it like that, you just sound like every other freshman coming to college for the first time, finding your classes. Is there, I guess, to piggyback off of Nick's question, is there any class that you're actually looking forward to, or are you more excited to kind of jump on the ice? But on the academic side, is there anything that you're kind of looking forward to, or just waiting for October and the season to start?
I mean, I like my math class. That's my favorite subject, but no, definitely looking forward to the hockey side of it too.
It's quite the season we have come up here, Jack. But before we get into what's coming up this season, I want to talk about how you got here. Again, highly touted defensive prospect. Oh my gosh. Let's just go through a couple of things that we have already said. 2021 Minnesota State High School Mr. Hockey Award winner. For those of you who have never watched Minnesota high school hockey, it is given as the best high school hockey player in the state for the 2021 year. So quite an accomplishment there, Jack. Was that an award? I guess, what was your reaction when you were named to that prestigious award for this last year of your high school career?
No, that was definitely really special to get to go to the cities and just spend that day with all the good hockey players in high school hockey and previous Mr. Hockey Award winners that were there, and then my family and coaches came down to watch it. And yeah, just was lucky enough to hear my name be called. And yeah, it was a whirlwind of emotions for sure. And like I said, spending that day with my family and my coaches was really special for me.
Speaking of family, Jack, let's rewind the clocks back all the way to the beginning years, if you will. And when you first threw on a pair of skates, who really got you into the game of hockey? How much influence did your family have on that? And, was it your dad, or was there somebody, especially in your childhood, that really stuck out as kind of being, a really good mentor or a really good someone that was a good building block for you to kind of become the player you are today?
Yeah, it was definitely my dad. He coached the high school team in Grand Rapids for, I think, 12 years. So I was always around the rink with him and got to skate with the high school team with him. And yeah, he was the one who got me into hockey. And then both my sisters played hockey, so there was a competitive side to that, trying to be better than them. And whole family's been competitive and have just been around the game of hockey.
Would you say that you've gotten better than your sisters, or do they still have a leg up on you, Jack?
I mean, I hope I'm better than them now, but you never know.
Jack, as you grow through the hockey realms, right? 2019, you're a part of the Minnesota High School All-Star Prospects game down there in St. Paul, the Trier rink. It's noted as what they call a scouts sort of game, right? And a very select group get to go there. But as a player, does that sort of, I guess, game, or that sort of event, if you want to call it, does that really mean much to you? Were you thinking a lot about who was in the stands, or were you just trying to go out there and have fun and play hockey?
I mean, those games are kind of weird, just being put together with a bunch of guys. It's kind of tough to know where each other are at. So yeah, you just kind of try and go out there and do your best and not worry too much about what's happening in the stands or who's there, because that'll throw you off your game. But no, just go play your game and yeah, good things will happen.
Speaking of that scouting process as well, one guy that obviously would have scouted you would have been Brett Larson, as well as the fantastic coaching staff, Nick Oliver, and then, of course, Dave Shayak, the newest addition in recent years. But, Jack, if you had to go back to that All-Star game and then coming into your freshman season as a Husky, how would you describe your own game and what you bring to the table in this Huskies lineup?
Yeah, I'd say I'm a two-way defenseman. My strength is my hockey IQ. I can play in the offensive zone and the defensive zone. Yeah, just doing anything to help the team win.
Jack, you talk about defensemen, you say hockey IQ, right? And it's amazing how we can look at, someone skating. We can look at their shot. We can look at their physicality as a defenseman, right? It's all these tools in your toolbox, right? But one thing that I've read upon you is just maybe your patience and your confidence with the puck, right? There just seems to be no fear with you. Would you agree with that assessment, that when the puck's on your stick, there's what they call ice in your veins? Is that accurate?
I wouldn't say there's no fear. It's just sometimes that I'm waiting to look for a better play and waiting for a passing lane to open up. But no, that's something I feel like I learned just by watching hockey growing up and always being around the rink. I always used to love to watch the NHL and the high school games in Grand Rapids. And yeah, I think that's one of the biggest keys to growing your hockey IQ.
And Jack, just to follow up on that, sorry, Noah, but, as far as, you said watching obviously Grand Rapids, the Thunderhawks, they have quite the story program in Minnesota State High School, hockey storyboards, if you want to call it. But, you watch some players at the NHL level. Was there any particular defenseman that you modeled your game at or watched and say, I kind of want to, emulate that person's game? Is there any one or two players that you watched, very intently?
I'll say just growing up watching Jake Bischoff. He's from Grand Rapids. He played at the Gophers and now he plays for Vegas. He was my favorite player growing up, and it was so special getting to watch him just practice every day and skate every day, and love the way he plays and kind of try to model my game after it.
I say Jack mentioned the Gophers. You might not want to mention the Gophers too much unless you're beating them in a Huskies uniform moving forward here, Jack. But nonetheless, speaking of being in a Huskies uniform, as Nick kind of alluded to, you've gotten the start in the academic world, but you've jumped on the ice as well, along with Mason Salquist and Josh Ludetke as freshmen in this squad here. How has that transition been with the boys in the locker room? Do you feel a little bit more at home when you've jumped on the ice, and how have the sessions been so far?
Yeah, no, this has been probably the easiest team I've ever had to come into the locker room, and just everyone accepting me. I know the other freshmen have felt like that too. It's just such a great culture in the locker room, and everyone accepts everyone for who they are, and everyone's pulling the rope in the same direction, which is what you need.
Yeah, and then I guess kind of to follow up, and I'm not sure if you have an answer to this, but when was the first time that you finally got a chance to connect with anybody on the Huskies team? Was it actually when you showed up on campus, or were some guys reaching out to you as far as, getting you kind of prepped through the summer and helping you with that transition from Fargo to where you are now?
It was actually really nice. We came down here 2 weeks in June and got to meet everyone. And I'd say that was just the first time of getting to meet everyone and kind of connecting with everyone. And it made just a transition coming in here and at the start of school so much easier, just coming in, knowing everyone and already kind of having relationships with everyone.
My final follow-up question before I kick it back to you, Nick. Jack, I'm assuming you've gotten a chance to go in the men's locker room at this point. Who are your stallmates, if you will, and have you gotten along well with them so far?
To my left is Brady Zemer, a really good dude. And then to my right is Spencer Meyer. So I got the captain right next to me.
No pressure, right?
No.
So, Jack, obviously last year you spent time with both Fargo up there with the Force, as well as some time also with Grand Rapids. But while you were playing, did you actually follow the Huskies in their season and quite the run that they had for themselves as a season just a few months back?
Oh, no, for sure. I watched every game I could. And when they were in the playoffs, we had a couple Forest games while they were playing. So would come in the locker room and check the score in between periods. Me and Mason would do that. So, no, it was awesome to see what they did this year or last year, my bad, sorry. But no, it was really special for them.
I say the years seem to all kind of run together at this point, don't they?
Pretty much.
I certainly do. And then to follow up with that, Jack, obviously as the runner-up, and the Huskies have never made it to the national championship game. They finally accomplished that feat, but there's still some hunger in that locker room. Has there been any discussion about last year, or is that kind of behind them? And they're kind of put in the rearview mirror, or maybe there's a little bit of motivation that can provide too, as the team was just that close and just couldn't quite seal the deal. Has there been any conversation about that experience and maybe what that might generate for this upcoming season?
I mean, we've talked about it once or twice, but no, that's definitely in the rearview mirror, and just trying to get to work this season. And we know how good our team is this year, and everyone else knows how good we are too. So it's kind of different than last year, where last year the team was sort of under the radar, and this year we're kind of have an X on our back, and it's going to be tough to get back there, and we know that, and we're just putting in the work right now.
At the risk of mentioning North Dakota, because I am a North Dakota boy, you did spend obviously some time in Fargo with the Force. What was your experience like there playing in Fargo at Shields Arena?
No, that was really special. I got to play there 2 months before my high school season, and just getting to play against the top junior players in the country helped my development so much, and had a great group of guys there. Loved the team there, and no, it was really good for my development for sure.
Jack, as they say, especially at the pro hockey level, there's off-season hockey, but there really doesn't seem to be an off-season, right? So because when the Stanley Cup was awarded, you go right to the draft, and hey, we got to talk about quite the feat that you had too. What a summer! First of all, it's every player's dream to be drafted by a team, right? And obviously, first, second round, I think anybody's happy to have their name called. But Jack, how did it feel when the hometown Minnesota Wild drafted you in the second round here just back in June? I guess talk us through your reaction to the news, and then just how does it feel to be a prospect of the Minnesota Wild?
No, it was crazy. Just sitting at the TV and hoping that my name would be called by the Minnesota Wild, and then it actually happened. It was I didn't know what to do. I got to share that day with my family too, which was really special. And then to get a call by Bill Guerin, a couple other guys in the office was really cool. And that was the team that I watched when I grew up, and it was always a dream to play there, and just to get drafted by them is really special.
So I've got two follow-up questions to that. My first is obviously, as Nick kind of alluded to, we were watching as well, and Nick even said that he had the tweet kind of primed in his phone. You're hoping maybe that you end up going to the hometown Minnesota Wild. As you started to get closer to that pick and you're still on the board, obviously you're hoping to get taken off the board, but you know how close that Minnesota squad is on that board as well. Was there kind of a little bit of tension knowing that maybe you were, only a pick or two away from potentially being picked by them, and, kind of some tense moments there?
A little bit, but no, I was still kind of crossing my fingers, hoping that maybe I'd slide down to them, and unfortunately happened.
And then a follow-up to that as well, too. We kind of talked to you pre-show about, some of the things we were going to go through and kind of getting the nerves out for the Big and Bad Huskies Warming House podcast here. But you also were on national television as well, too, and talking about how you were drafted by Minnesota. What, for people who maybe don't understand how TV and media things like this work, what was that experience like for you to be able to essentially be set up with the studio and get that interview process set up? Did you get a phone call? Did they say, hey, we'd like to have you jump on a Zoom call? What was that like, and how nervous were you for that particular portion?
It was actually really easy. Excuse me. I was in Plymouth, Michigan, at the World Junior Tryout, so they had something set up for us, and they had media people there. So I just had to go and sit down behind a computer and kind of just answer a couple questions. And it didn't really feel like I was live because it was delayed, so that definitely made it easier on me. But no, it was easier than I thought it would be for sure.
Jack, I want to follow up just again because that call that you get, it's a call that again, you dream about, especially when you're in the high school ranks. And then, as a Mr. Hockey Award, you have to have a sense your name was going to get called, and no question that it did. But after the dust maybe initially settled, did you call your parents, or, did you call your dad? And what was that conversation like with your dad when, the call came in, you got the interview done? What was that first conversation like post being drafted by the Minnesota Wild?
Well, my family was with me, so I got to hug them right away, which was awesome. And my dad just said, congratulations, we're so proud of you. And that was really special for me. I said my thank yous to them. And I think one of the first people I called was actually my high school coach in Grand Rapids. And he was a really good mentor for me, and just such a great dude. And, can't thank him enough.
We talk about that mentorship process. You've got obviously a bevy of veteran players on this Husky squad, but also three great mentors in the coaching staff as well, including someone who knows the college ranks very well, and Brett Larson. When you go back to your journey to a St. Cloud State uniform, when did St. Cloud first contact you? Kind of when did the ball start to get rolling, and when you knew that playing for the Huskies might not only be a possibility, but at some point it was going to be a reality?
I think I first started talking to them when I was 15 years old. It was actually when Motzkow was still the coach here. And then, when Brett Larson moved over, continued the communication. He offered me a scholarship in the summer after my Bantam year. Decided to come here and haven't looked back since, and have loved my decision.
Was there any other point too where you had other teams that had interest, or did you kind of know right away, like you mentioned, that St. Cloud was kind of going to be the place to be?
I mean, being the Gopher, I always watched the Gophers growing up. I hate to say it, but when they kind of had their slump for probably 10 years when I was growing up, and knew I didn't want to go there anymore, and thought St. Cloud would be a really good fit for me, pretty close to home. So, jumped on the opportunity.
Somewhere Go Huskies woo when he mentions that he didn't want to go there anymore, sipping a beer and smiling intently.
And Jack, you talk about the Gophers, and, for those who have watched this region of college hockey for long enough, because, go ahead, Noah, insert old joke here. But back to the old WCHA days when, the Gophers, St. Cloud, Duluth, North Dakota. I mean, this was, the hot ticket every single weekend. And, the St. Cloud and the Gophers haven't really been, a consistent schedule item. And now this season, there's going to be a home and home between these two teams, one at Mariucci, one at the Herb. Now that you've watched the Gophers growing up, and to be fair, a lot of people have in this state, trust me, it's not just you. But when you see that on the calendar, I think is it the second or third weekend on the schedule? How exciting is it that, not only are you a Division I athlete coming into St. Cloud, but you get the opportunity to play against them? Do you have that weekend circled on your calendar already?
No, for sure. That's one of our biggest games this year, and I know a couple players who are going to be on their team, so that's going to be even more fuel to the fire. So, I know the whole team's definitely looking forward to that weekend.
Yeah, speaking of the whole team, Jack, I kind of wanted to follow up, and I don't want to put you on the spot too much with this, but like you mentioned, you've been in some captain's practices, you've gotten to skate with a couple of guys. Is there one or two players in particular that really stands out to you as, a specific skill set, or kind of like, wow, this player is a good hockey player, or are you just kind of trying to take it all in?
Everyone's bigger, faster, stronger. It's definitely a change from the junior level. And it's just crazy to see how good the team is, and it just even gets me more excited about this year, just getting to skate with everyone every day.
Yeah, and as we look behind you, it looks like you must be in your dorm room, I'm thinking is where you're at there. How has the living situation been, and what do you like to do kind of in your free time, not only when you're in St. Cloud, but kind of in general? What do you like to do to kick back, relax, and hang out with the boys?
Yeah, in the dorm room here, it's pretty tight quarters, but it gets the job done for sure. Like a northern Minnesota boy would do. I like to hunt and fish and spend time on the lake when I have some downtime.
Have you met a guy by the name of Easton Brodzinski? Because if you like to hunt and fish, I think he's going to be your guy for the entire year.
Yeah, I have met him and I have heard some stories from him. So no, it's been awesome.
I wonder how many of those are true, just like the stories, right?
Exactly.
So, Jack, let's actually look forward a little bit. We were talking about the Gophers this season, but I guess what is your mentality at for? Are you thinking a lot about the first time you ever get to touch the ice a little bit? I suppose what are the some of the expectations the coaching staff has for you too as you are entering in? Definitely just trying to get your feet wet here in Division I hockey.
Haven't talked too much to the coaches about what the expectations are yet, but no, like you said, there's definitely going to be nerves for the first time I touch the ice, and I think my mindset is just trying to get through those nerves and get to where I'm going to be comfortable to play and be confident with the puck, and that's how it is wherever you start fresh. And everyone goes through it, and no one likes it, but you got to do it.
And then Jack, just a quick follow-up. Well, you talk about coaches' expectations. What about your own expectations? What do you want out of yourself, as you get yourself, I guess, baptized into the college hockey world?
Yeah, just looking forward to trying to earn a spot on this team, and just doing anything to help the team win is what my mindset is right now, and we'll go from there.
You've talked a lot about, obviously, the adjustment to the college world. You talk about guys being bigger, faster, stronger. We've talked about your progress, through, like you mentioned, the high school all-star game, through the Fargo Force, getting drafted, getting ready to play in a Huskies uniform. That process is a unique one to someone who's 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 years old as they move versus someone in a kind of a normal high school setting, if you will. What recommendations or kind of tips or things to point out would you have for players who are going along that journey like you are, where you've recognized that you were a good hockey player and you're trying to get to that next level, trying to get bigger and faster and stronger? Are there any tips that you would pass along to players that are going through that journey that you're on right now?
Yeah, I'd say just don't listen to the outside noise. There's a lot of haters out there and people who think their kid's better and their kid should be in the same spot as you. But yeah, if you really want it, just keep your head down and try and block up everyone else.
And then I just got a couple of questions more for you, Jack. Again, thank you so much for joining us here on the Huskies Warming House podcast here on this Wednesday evening. I can't believe it's already dark outside. It's just insane. We're heading towards fall for sure, but also means the ice is going to be, coming fresh here too. But as you enter in as a Husky too, I know we've talked about the locker room and the culture on this squad and just how special it is. I guess, first of all, my first question is, when did you actually arrive on campus?
I arrived, I think, the 22nd.
22nd, so not
3 days ago?
Couple days ago.
Or no, not the 22nd. I've been here this will be my third week. That's my bad.
Third week.
Yeah.
Was it a little bit surreal when you walked out on the Herb Brooks National Hockey Center ice for the first time, even though it's maybe just practice, just looking up and, you see pictures of it, whether it's on TV or maybe online? How did it actually feel to step on the ice and look up and actually wear, the St. Cloud C crest on your chest?
No, that was really special for sure. Even though it was just a practice jersey and you're out there just for captain's practice, it was really special to look up. And even if there is no fans, it's such a special hockey rink, and just to be out there with the team was really cool.
And I guess my last question for you, Jack, and then we'll kick it over to Noah, is, you already talked about, this team and this culture and just how, everybody's so accepting of each other. Was that something you were privy to before you came here? And even if you were, did it meet your expectations as far as, you kind of being, I guess, taken in by the group? And I guess, what was that process like?
I'd heard from Brett that, how good of a culture it was. I didn't really know for sure what it was going to be like. I've been accepted on the teams before, and I had to go back and forth from Fargo, and that was pretty easy for me. But no, just how good everyone was with coming up and introducing themselves and just helping you with if you had a question about where something was, and just inviting you to everything they do if they're going to go out to eat or something, and just shooting you texts. So no, it's been really cool.
Yeah, speaking of the group around you, I wanted to ask quickly, kind of a little bit a while ago, I guess I should say, when you mentioned tight quarters in the dorm room, do you have a roommate or are you all by yourself?
Yeah, my roommate's Mason Sahlquist.
Yeah, a little bit of familiarity there. The other piece going back to, obviously, you've been drafted, you've been part of the All-Star game, you played at some of the highest levels in the game of hockey. When you go back from when you first started playing the game, is there one moment, one game, anything in particular that kind of stands out to you as kind of the ultimate moment for you so far in your college hockey career? Or in your hockey career, not just your college career. Your college career might be easy to narrow down. I should say your entire hockey career.
Oh, let's think.
Way to make him think the first year.
Yeah.
This is where the trick questions come in, honestly.
Yeah, we've never been known for having brains on this podcast, so this might be the first day. We'll see.
I'd say probably just my first high school hockey goal. I'll remember it forever. It was against War Road on a Saturday afternoon.
It was 20 degrees outside. I mean, yeah, that's pretty that's poetic.
Made a move on the blue line and skated it down kind of into the corner and just put a shot on net, and somehow it went 5-hole. And fell over when I celebrated, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah, one of those where as you get older, the story goes where you went coast to coast, through all 5 guys, toe dragger on the tendy for the game winner. If it makes you feel any better, Jack, my first high school goal, I actually didn't score it. I put a puck on net and the defenseman accidentally batted it into the net. So at least you scored you scored yours as well. Jack, we thank you so much for joining us here. I wanted to ask one final question too, and this is kind of in regard to the podcast. We got to extend a special thanks out to Nolan Walker, who had a great hockey season last year, but also was kind of our liaison for getting you on the show. When you first got the text from Nolan or had the conversation that you were going to come on our podcast, did he have to really explain who the heck we were, or what was your first exposure finding out who the Huskies Warming House podcast is? Or do you still not know who we are? Who knows?
No, I've seen some of your interviews on Instagram with, I think you had Brett Larson on, and watched a little bit of that one. So no, I definitely knew who you guys were.
And you were like, get me 100 feet away from these guys. I'm never doing this show ever, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. No.
Well, knowing how much he probably knows I'm the old one and you're not, probably. So, well, Jack, again, we thank you so very much for coming on. Again, thanks again to Nolan Walker for, I guess, getting you on the show. We'll definitely be seeing you on the rink at the Herb. Good luck. Again, first week of class is almost done. Tomorrow is Thursday. So have fun. Congratulations. Welcome in to being a Husky. We're happy to have you on board, and best of luck here this season coming forward. I'm sure we'll be talking again.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Jack, thanks again. Have a good evening.
Thanks,
You
Jack.
too.
And once again, always exciting to have a new guest this week in the den for the Healthy Scratch interview segment. And like you mentioned, a guy very straightforward and to the point, and I think his play on the ice, it kind of exudes the same way. A player that I don't think he's going to be flashy in terms of the goal scoring on the score sheet as far as, being a goal scoring point producer, but as far as someone who very defensively sound, good shoulder checking, very patient and calm in the corners, a good first pass defenseman. Jack Peart's going to be your guy. Good call. Good, calm composure as he moves up the ice. Nick, what are you looking forward to the most out of Jack as he kind of enters his freshman year, as well as the other 2 freshmen that are going to be joining this club?
Well, again, we talk about composure with the puck, right? We asked him about that, and it's something that I watched, again, when I called the game in 2019 down in St. Paul. I noticed just how calm and composed he was. And, when you talk about freshmen, we saw this with Nick Perbix, too, when he was a freshman. He had the tools on the tool chest, but it's, how can you just build that confidence that you can just kind of slow things down, right? I think it's so easy for our freshmen to be, all hyped up and got the juice going through your veins, and just all about settling things down and just knowing that, the game is faster for sure, but in reality, it's in your head. How can you slow things down? And I'm really kind of excited to see what Jack can do, especially in that depth part of the defensive core for this hockey team. Because again, for Jack, if his hockey IQ is a strength, which I do agree, I do believe it will be, everything else flows through that for him. He's a great skater. Again, he's got size to him, so he's going to have that. Again, he's not going to be, either a bomb shooter from the point, but again, I think, as far as breakouts and maybe learning how to join the rush at good times, knowing how to come back, he's going to be that great 2-way defenseman. Maybe like a Jonas Brodin, maybe for the Minnesota Wild, maybe that's him, but just to kind of see his progression, how we just get himself acquainted with the college hockey experience. So very, very excited to see him play.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite qualities about him right now, and it might be kind of an odd one because usually it means the other thing, and that's his journeyman / suitcase kind of journey, if you will. I think that that's important in the sense that, you've got Grand Rapids, you've got Fargo, you've got St. Cloud, like you mentioned, you've got the All-Star game, you've got the draft as well too. Kind of going through those ebbs and flows, obviously it can be a little daunting and overwhelming, but when you talk about a guy who at 18 years old is trying to be essentially almost that true freshman and jump into a lineup like that, I think knowing that you had to jump from those levels, from team to team, and play at the highest level and be your best and end up being Mr. Hockey and be productive on a Fargo Force team that had a good run. That's important as you jump into the Division I level, being able to play with the big boys at 18 years old, and be a player that's going to be a contributor right away. So I think that that's kind of one of my qualities that I would look forward to with Jack as well too. As we look forward ahead to what we have on the docket, of course, episode number 76 coming out on Sunday with our regular show as well, hopefully scheduling a guest for that one as well. Mr. Maxon, do we have anything else that we have yet to tell the listeners that I forgot for some apparent reason, or are we?
Why are you asking the old guy that probably has Alzheimer's? That's what I want to know.
Well, I'd like to make sure that you feel valued on this show, Mr. Maxon. Do you feel valued?
I forgot even what we were talking about. No, I'm kidding. Still working on the one-on-one special here, Mr. Noah Grant. That will probably be, I'm going to try to probably release that as we get closer to the hockey season. Just kind of a nice little primer. The women's, again, we're going to be talking a lot about some of the women's world participants here for, Steve McDonald's squad, who's starting to get on the score sheet as well, having some impact play. They're over on the world stage up in Calgary. Great Canadian city, by the way. And just getting you ready and prepped for, again, college hockey is about 5 weeks away. That's it. We're coming up here, folks. So it's getting closer. We're going to try to get everybody primed, get this Husky squad ready, and then try to encourage everybody, get out to the Herb this year. Seriously, this is going to be a fun group to watch. And I want to see the Herb Brooks National Hockey filled with just a boisterous amount of fans. So don't take that crap for granted because we couldn't have it last year. Let's fill that building every single game for both men's and women's hockey and make this a ruckus crowd and a very tough place for their opponents to come in and play.
Yeah, it's going to be a super exciting year. As we mentioned, we're going to keep you up to date with our weekly show. Our guest coming in, Brett Larson, is going to join us pretty much about a week or two before the season actually gets rolling as well, too. So he'll be on the list as well for his, I believe, 5th appearance on the show. How about that? Shattering the repeat guest performance record, unless you count Ben Holden, but I don't know. But nonetheless, that will do it for episode number 75 of the Healthy Scratch interview segment. And we will see you on Sunday for episode 76.
One-timer, come in, they score! Ripped in! A bomb from Peart!
So Dana Rasmussen fires and she scores! Dana Rasmussen for the Huskies alongside
Dwayne Kaprizov in for a chance to win it! He scores! Kirill the Thrill is for real! Welcome to the NHL!
Cathedral is now 42.6 seconds away from wrapping up the school's first ever title.